Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Hashim Whitmore, be with the world's greatest barber.com. Hey, barbers, I wanted to help you guys out because one of the things that you guys got to understand with dealing with a lot of clients, and especially around this time of year, which is December, we're getting ready to go into holiday times. There's going to be a lot of new faces coming into the barber shop, a lot of new walk-ins, a lot of clientele that you might be taking over that might be somebody else's clientele and is now sitting in your chair. And one of the hardest things to deal with is you get a bad Yelp review, or somebody talks to your manager and says, hey man, this guy didn't give me the right type of service. So I wanted to give you a few tips about how to actually handle dealing with this, this situation, because it can get you down. Like, it can really get you down, especially because you're putting all your heart and your good effort into your craft. So let's isolate a couple things, and I need to give you a little bit of information, because back in the day, before there was Yelp, before there was social media, it was a barber's reputation was really based off of word of mouth. Well, now clients have a platform that they can let everybody know what their experience with you was. So if it was great, they can let the world know instantly through their Instagram, Yelp, social media, Facebook, how great you did or how terrible you did too. So that's one thing to keep in mind, just overall. And that's just not about your service, but that's about the environment that you create. That's about the customer service that you give, the whole process, the cleanliness of the shop. Everything is up for grabs, up for discussion now that we have a social media platform that reaches everybody. And so remember, you can only control what you can control. And if you are in a shop, and let's say, because one of my students recently had this instance where a person came into the shop, and I'm sure we've all been there before. You ask the client what they're looking for, and they don't know how to describe what type of haircut they're looking for, or they use a description that you might not be familiar with. And a lot of times when you go, and trust me, I started cutting hair in Washington, D.C., and then I came out here back home to California, and the names for haircuts was totally different. And I struggled with that because at first I didn't know what a person really wanted, because it wasn't what I was used to doing. It wasn't a Caesar. It wasn't they had different names for everything that they did. So it really takes a strong consultation to really get everything that you want out of the client. And especially if you don't know the client, you really want to put them in the position of power where they are just kind of guiding you on how to cut their hair. And if you're dealing with an extremely difficult person, or a person that is extremely confused, you gotta go simple. Gotta go simple. Don't try to throw out a whole bunch of barber terms, or terms that it might be common to you. You really have to break it down into smaller little portions and like real basic. So if it was if you're trying to explain it to a child, that they can understand what you're gonna do. Short on the sides, a little bit long on the top, and a way to kind of safeguard your experience, especially if somebody doesn't know how short they want it or anything like that, is you take a section of the hair, usually like in the front. That is a real good, either the front on top or front on the sides, depending on what type of haircut that they're getting. And you start there, and you start with either your biggest guard, or you start with your by combing out the hair, and you just show them with the comb how low that you're thinking about taking. That will be a good look for them. and let them see that in the mirror before you make any cuts. And, and then that way you get an idea, what they're looking for. And once you get an idea of what they're looking for, then you can start cutting, and then you keep on checking with them. It might be really meticulous, but it will safeguard you and keep you out of like bad reviews and things like that, because now you done gave him all the power. You done showed him the mirror 30 different times to say, hey, is this a good length here? Can I take it shorter? These are my thoughts. How would you like doing this? That's one of the easiest ways to really boost up your consultation game. And now it's not about your opinion or what type of haircut that you think looks best. It's about giving them what they want. Secondly, if you don't, if that is too challenging, and some clients, you might not really get anywhere with them trying to do that. They might get frustrated. You say, you know what? Let me do this. Do you have a picture of a past haircut that you got in that you really liked? And most people we're in the selfie stage. People are taking pictures on the phone all the time, and they usually have a picture of themselves from the past, and you can look at the haircut and say, well, are you looking for this same type of haircut? Because this is what I can do. Or if there's some changes that you want to make, you can make changes. Do you want to go shorter on the sides? But you're using a picture that they already provided you with, and then that's kind of like your template. This is kind of like your guide to go off of. Excuse me. If they don't have that, then next is let's get online. Let's take a second. Is there anybody famous or anybody? And most people, they're styling themselves or trying to get a haircut that looks like somebody that they like. So, and people will take pictures from one of their favorite actors, sports players, things like that, rappers, entertainers, sometimes even YouTube personalities, or things that they saw on Instagram or YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, any of those platforms. And so you guys can find an idea of what might fit them, and that way you can deliver the haircut that they're looking for. And so once again, just recapping, it's taking your time, showing them like a little section of the hair and checking with them back in the mirror, finding a previous picture that they might have of themselves, or finding a picture of somebody online that you could go off of, or even like looking around the shop for somebody that might have a similar hair texture that might actually work for them. And throughout this process, you're getting especially when you're checking with them, showing them what it looks like in the mirror, just because you finish the cut, after you do all your detailing, after you do all your razor work, it still isn't done until the client is satisfied. And that's up to you to show them that I want to make sure that you're satisfied. So I always ask, is there anything else that I can do? You might have a whole different way of saying it, but you want to make sure that however it's that they understand that you're there and that you care for them. You do all that, and say if they're still not happy, say if you still get a bad review, then you got to keep on moving on. You got to keep on moving on, because every barber has had the experience where they didn't give maybe the best haircut, right? And it could be because it was the client that they didn't understand what they wanted, or it could be that it might have just not been a good haircutting day. So you never want to cut hair if you're done cutting hair. If you're not feeling it, if you're not in the attitude for it, you're not in the right mental space to do it, take a break, go home, call it a day, come back again tomorrow. That way, when you're behind the chair and you're dealing with the public, you're giving them your best service. And if you've done everything that you can do, and you know that you did the best job that you can. You got to remember that this is part of your growth. This is a bad review or bad feedback isn't the end of the world. Everybody has gotten them at some point in time in their barber career, and it's just a learning experience, a growing experience, you know. And it's once you say, you know what, I'm going to grow from this. I'm going to be focusing better on my blends. I'm going to be working on my razor work. I'm going to get better every time, and in time it will happen. And so you got to take all of your past history of the passion that you put in, the time that you put in the school, at the shop, all that kind of stuff, and know that, hey, you gotta be a little easy on yourself. You keep on focusing on one bad review, it should bring you down. It will really make you feel insecure, and you'll start taking even more time, not because you want to get something right. It's because you're kind of like operating out of that fair category, and that's not where you want to be operating at. you know you're a barber, you do good work, you're getting better at your craft every day. So you got to give yourself a little grace, a little ease, because in time your skills get better, customer service gets better, consultations get better. And as long as you do this one thing and kind of remember this thing about dealing with people, people will always remember more than anything how you made them feel. You look at a lot of Yelp reviews that are really good versus the ones that are really bad. You'll see one consistency is that people will tell you how they felt about the service, how they felt when they were getting the service. It could be a subpar haircut, but if you made that person feel like they were the most important person in the world, and that they were valued, you got a client for life, and they will grow with you as your skills grow. But if you make a person feel like they were like a burden to you, that you weren't listening to any of the things that they said, they didn't have a voice, you just did what you wanted, and you took the power of choice away from them, and that's what goes on. That's that fuel behind those bad Yelp reviews. And they start, and they'll get detailed, and they'll say things about you, and that doesn't truly reflect the great person that you are. It just reflected just a portion in time where you might have just been too tired, or you might have had a misunderstanding on what they were actually looking for. So, remember, take your time, especially getting to know new people. Every person has a different language and how they express themselves, how they communicate what they're looking for. Always try to make sure that you gain an understanding. That's within any type of relationship, from barbering to your personal relationships. And one of the ways that you can convey that you understand what a person is asking of you is to give it back to them and to restate what they just said back in their own words, not your words or how you describe it, but in their words. So if they say, I want a little funky on top, short on the sides, the tapered in the back, or real blended, after you broke it down, that it's going to go from light to dark, it's going to be real short on the sides, maybe showing a little skin. You can say, hey, so the objective is to make it funky on top, short on the sides, and tapering in the back. And then that makes them know that they were heard, that you care, and that you're going to give them the best service possible. And that way, when you follow up with them, and when you see them next time, or you see their review, they talk about how great you made them feel, how wonderful the service was, and how they can't wait to come back. So this is Hashim Whitmore. I know this will help some of you guys out there, because we've all been there. If you have any questions, please let me know and we'll address it here on this channel. All right, comment, like, subscribe.